3, 2, 1. Welcome back to No Offense. Today we're super excited. We have my coach for Jiu Jitsu and Muay Thai, I guess, actually as well. And we're super excited to have him on today, have some beers with him, and kind of dive into his story on how he got here. He just recently got promoted to being a black belt. So watch the episode, hear how his story went, how he got to where he's at today, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more. Brad, thanks for coming on. We're excited to have you.
How you doing, man?
Dude, this is awesome. Thank you guys so much. This is a huge deal for me. I'm just so excited to just talk about all this stuff, man, and geek out a little bit.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think a good place to start is actually just 2 days ago, our gym, the whole team was over at a different gym watching Brad get promoted by one of his longtime friends to the black belt rank. So how did that feel? I mean, that was nuts. I know your speech was awesome. We could even drop that in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is too, man, with the speech, you think about what you're going to say and everything. And then I walked out there and it's like deer in headlights and just off the top of my head. But
it's kind of like when we do the intros.
Yeah. So going into it, for a while there, I wasn't sure I'd ever get another belt in jiu-jitsu because how the whole thing works and there's politics and things like that, because I kind of branched off on my own. And then my buddy kind of surprised me and he showed up and he said, man, he'd seen me work so hard. He'd seen me get choked down on the mat so many times and come back and go for more and just fight and fight and fight. So he gave me my brown belt, and years later, here I am getting my black belt from him, and he was there from the beginning. And the thing is, when you get a black belt from somebody, your name is attached to that person. And what was so important to me was, I could have gone out and been, trying to pay somebody to come in and do a seminar and get a black belt, or, going out and meeting people for the express purpose that I want to get, a belt from them. And I had no interest in that, man. So my buddy Tim, I've known him since the start, and he's just a stand-up guy. I've seen him do, the right thing by people. Over and over and over again. So I wanted my name connected to him because I know he's a stand-up person. Not only is he great at jiu-jitsu, but he's just a good guy, man.
Yeah.
So I was so excited, and I'll tell you, I started driving over there because I was training at my gym. So I start driving over, and I'm having a panic attack in the car.
Like a knockout panic attack, or
dude? What happened? I got the news, and I kind of had an idea it was coming. And after I got the news, I was sleeping 3 hours a night or something because I was so worked up. I was so stressed because it's such a big deal. For 12 years, man, I have killed myself just trying to learn more, trying to do better. And so I wasn't sleeping. I kept forgetting to eat because I was so stressed. And then I started driving over there and I start heading this thing. And I know all these people, they're so important to me, man, that push me and just encourage me. They're all going to be in this room.
Yeah, there was a ton of people there. I mean, that had to be, how many people was that?
It's probably 60 people.
Yeah. And it was in a small gym too. It might have been more, honestly.
Yeah, it was a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so I start driving, I start hyperventilating, and I'm kind of freaking out. And I used to have panic attacks way back when. And, I hadn't had one in years. And so my face starts going numb and my hands are shaking. I'm oh man, this is not good. And then, I start to calm down and I kind of meditate a little bit while I'm driving, listen to some music, chill myself out. And then I park the car and I start getting out of the car and I'm starting to walk up and it starts hitting me again. And I'm oh my God, I'm freaking out, man. I'm walking this room and you're always man, I work so hard, but I feel I need to be better to be a black belt. You know what I mean? No matter what, you feel you got to be better because
the imposter syndrome.
Yeah. And if you respect this stuff, there's so much to it. You're never done. You know what I mean? You always have so much work to do. So I start walking up, I'm having a panic attack and I'm hyperventilating a little bit. And one of my students, David Garcia, starts walking up behind me. He's hey, wait up. And I'm no, I'm not waiting up for you. I just kept going because I'm if I stop, it's going to be bad. So he catches up with me and I walked in and immediately went in the back, got a bottle of water and pulled my friend Maria, who came back there and kind of talked me down. Mm-hmm. So I go back out and I'm trying to play it cool and I'm freaking out a little bit, but I'm doing a little better. And then I was sitting back and I was helping people get signed up on waivers and stuff like that to train. And I kind of managed to chill myself out. And when they called me up there not long after, and it was I don't know, man, I just kind of snapped to where I was good.
Yeah.
And I felt pretty good about it.
Yeah. Your speech felt super authentic and you didn't seem worried at all during the speech. It didn't seem like you were panicking during it. You delivered it well.
Yeah. I mean, when with a lot of pressure situations, I'm good at kind of snapping too. and just kind of acting and going. You know what I mean? I kind of know that.
That's kind of jujitsu in general. It's like before, or like wrestling, like before a match, you're nervous, but once you're in the match, you're fine. You're in flow state, or you're, in the moment.
The butterflies leading up to it definitely subside when you're like ready to go.
Yeah. It's the weirdest thing ever.
And you've been doing it for 13 years?
12. Yeah, man.
12 years. Yeah.
12 years.
How long ago until you started your own business, your own gym?
Well, I branched out. I was working for somebody else for a year and a half, 2 years. And then I branched out on my own. I bought everything and branded myself. And I started switching my branding to Misfits Jiu Jitsu. And so let me start from the top. It's been about 3 years, and I started off in West Dundee. And we had mats on top of AstroTurf and indoor soccer field. And, it wasn't great, man, but we were making it work.
Yeah.
And another gym, we found out, so I'm there teaching one day and everything's good. And then I see signs saying, coming soon, jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, man, I'm already teaching here. Where are they talking about jiu-jitsu coming soon? So I'm like, I guess I have to move out. I think that's them saying I got to go. So, I was like, okay, I got to find a new location because clearly somebody is moving in. So I'm like, I got to go. So I found a CrossFit gym that was willing to rent me a yoga studio in the back. So I went there, and I'm still working with the same guy there. And I ended up buying him out, and we were in this yoga studio in the back of a gym called Phoenix Athletics, and the people were amazing there, man. Like, as soon as I walked in, I went to have I was expecting this business meeting with the owner. I was so nervous. She walks out and she's drinking a White Claw, talking with me. I'm like, okay, she's nice and chill. Yeah. So, I was there for a while. Then I had bought all the equipment. I started to brand myself. We managed to get through COVID, which was very difficult. And sadly, COVID wiped out that CrossFit gym. And they started to go under. They just couldn't afford their rent because their rent was so high, man. And it was sad because they had such a great crew. They had so many nice people there. They would talk with you every time you went in. They encourage you. A lot of them took my classes just to support us getting started. And, they closed up shop. I still keep in touch with them. And I got to this point where it was like, man, I don't have another place to go. There's no business set up that I could just move in the back. Mm-hmm. So I considered just, folding into another gym, bringing all my guys there. And I thought about that, and I just decided I really wanted to continue to teach. I wanted to do my own thing. So I started searching for a storefront, and I was looking all throughout Elgin, and everything was kind of expensive, and it was very hard to find something. And I was about to give up, man, and my furnace went out at my house at home. So I call my landlord. He comes by, and, they've got a guy fixing the furnace. I'm talking with him, and I tell him the story, and he's like, man, it just so happens I have this place in St. Charles.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so I went to see it, and it used to be a real estate office, and right away, I was like, I'll take it, man. And I got set up right from there. So I had counted, and I knew I had 8 guys that would sign up. I knew for sure I had 8 guys, and that was it. I only knew I had 8 students. So here I am thinking, man, I might be losing money all the time, and it's going to be really difficult, but I'm going to give it a go. And the first night, I had 14 guys show up. Oh, wow. The first night. And that wasn't even for a class. That was just a little open mat, come and see the place. I had 14 guys show up. And then I had students, I had a guy make me a laser cut steel sign with my branding on it. Yeah. I had another guy buy me a Misfits Jiu Jitsu sign offline that was so cool looking. And I had people slowly come together and just support me and get behind me to put this thing together, man.
Yeah, people brought him TVs too. He's got a TV.
Yeah,
seriously?
Yeah. One of my students, he just, I was sitting at the gym. I was getting ready to close up. And he pulls up, he just walks in, and he goes, hey, I want to know, I think I got a gift for you if you want it. And I'm like, yeah, man, what do you got? He goes, I got a 55-inch TV. And I'm like, bro, I'll take it. So now I've got a TV set up, and I set up a little PlayStation with it for the kids. I'll put on movies. Over Christmas, I had Die Hard on there and Elf and stuff like that. And, it's fun, man. But it's just, I can't say enough. All these incredible people got behind me and built me up. And the thing is, man, in my whole life, I've never believed in myself. Ever. You know what I mean? I've always had severe depression. I've had all these issues. And seeing these people put their faith in me made me want to be great. It made me work harder, man. It still does. Every time, because I get real down and everything. And I see how they look at me and the faith they put in me to not just teach them, but to work hard for them and just have this great place that we've put together where you know our gym. It's such a friendly crowd, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you come in, everybody like introduces themselves, and like nobody there is going to like injure you. You know what I mean? They're all going to be real chill. So it's kind of like going from there, it just built and built and built. And now we're pretty solid with a good number of students.
Yeah. It's growing up quick.
Getting blown up over here.
Yeah, I know. I don't know.
Got an angry girlfriend. She's like, get the fuck home right now.
Those are students signing up.
Yeah, hopefully it's students signing up here.
No, but that's good, and that's true. And
Apologies.
There's a lot of people. No, you're good. And there's a lot of people that come in there. I like it because it's got like a diverse crowd of people like going in there to get different. They're there for different purposes. You know, there's people there that are there for like mental health reasons or to get away from certain things. You know, there's certain people that have like stuff going on that they need to be somewhere else. You know, so Brad helps like support that kind of crowd, and then also the crowd of people that are just trying to fucking kill people.
Yeah,
There's like,
you do get a lot of that too.
Yeah, there's a little bit of both, right? And that's what's kind of cool.
And you know, man, that's the thing for me. The biggest like part of all the jiu-jitsu stuff and all the training stuff is the mental health aspect, because you know most people are not going to have a physical altercation in their life. Most people are not going to compete. You know what I mean? You're going to have a small handful that go out and get after it and compete.
For sure.
And don't get me wrong, those guys are great, man. But more than anything for me, it's about helping people turn around their lives and just getting people to have something positive. And you know, I'm all about like the lost causes, the people where it's just like, man, they're done. You know, things are so bad, they can't pull out of that. And I get kids, I get people, they're just struggling, man. And it could be like with drinking, it'd be with depression, it could be a million different things. And I see this stuff help them and bring them like out of it a little bit. And, you know, a lot of these guys are never going to be a real competitor or anything like that, but they get something positive out of it every day and they push hard and they look to learn legit technique. You know what I mean? They're learning the real thing. And that's so important that you have like the real thing going on. And I've seen a lot of good coming from it, man. A lot of good come from it.
Yeah, it's true. It helps people like build their confidence and get good at failing and failing forward, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's definitely a good environment for people that have been failing a lot, but not forward.
Yeah, literally.
You know?
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing it does the best is teaches you like constructive failing where it's like, and I was listening to like A Boy Named Sue by Johnny Cash. And he talks about, he thinks about his dad every time he gets in a fight. And he says, I think about him every time I try and every time I win. And it's like, okay, so there's no lose there. You try or you win.
Yeah.
And it's like if you try, you go try again. And that's just how it is, man. You just go out and put yourself out there with whatever you do. And whatever you do, you put yourself out there. And if you're doing it right, you will fail. Yeah. And that's important. Like if you don't fail, then you're not taking something difficult enough on. Yeah. And it's kind of like then you pick yourself up and you do it again. And that's the biggest thing I've learned from this. And that's the life lesson it really gives people, man.
Well, it's cool too because you also have a space where everybody else is achieving some form of goal that it's like you have a really tight community of people that are actively failing and actively trying to get better. And I feel like there's almost a level of support there that makes you feel more.
Yeah, because everyone's failing at the same time.
You're not the only one.
Like, yeah,
I might
win this one, but whenever we switch partners, I'm going to get my ass kicked there. And you know that.
Everyone. He just came from his ass getting kicked. And then now he's going to get. It's like
everyone gets their ass kicked at least once.
Yeah, exactly.
Like once a day. There's always some better guy.
Yeah.
There's always a better guy that's like, oh, you know how you feel after a good roll. You're like, kill them. You know what I mean? You're like, that was a good one. I felt good about that one. Then you move on, and then you just get smashed.
Yeah. That's how it goes.
And then it just levels you out again.
Yeah.
Well, I got my black belt. Like, there's one guy up there that just absolutely kills me. And so, you know, I'm doing my rounds.
Which one's that? Is it the one? I saw you rolling with the kid with like colored hair.
I mean, he's really good. That's Nick. He's very good.
You tapped him, I saw, but I was like super impressed. I was like watching. I was like, damn, this kid's
very good,
really
man.
good.
Yeah.
What belt is he?
I'm not sure. I think he's a blue belt. And then
he was like actually like
he's tough, man.
Yeah,
he's
he looked
tough.
He looked tough for sure.
There's a brown belt over there named Josh, who's just he's been grappling for 25 years.
Oh wow.
And he's incredible, man.
That's insane.
His balance is nuts, and like just the pressure, and he's a really nice guy. And I knew he was going to kill me. And I knew, like, he's not going anywhere. I knew he'd stay there. So the last round of the night, I went after him. And, of course, I try to wrestle with him. And, you know, my wrestling's not great, you know what I mean? But I went after him. And I tried hard, man. And I'm not going to lie, I got killed. But, like, I knew, man. I was like, somebody's going to get me today. And
had it out there.
yeah, but, you know, I knew somebody was going to get me. But before that, I had a training partner of mine named Henry Sadowski come in. So this guy hadn't done jiu-jitsu in 6-7 years.
Wow.
And, like, he was my main training partner when I was coming up. He helped me figure all this stuff out. And he's the nicest guy, man. And he came in, and I knew somebody's going to be the first person to tap me as a black belt. And I'm like, I let him catch something. You know what I mean?
Oh, really?
And I was like,
cool.
yeah, I wanted to be able to say that was the first guy to get me because I owe the guy, man. I owe that guy. I always will. There's so many people that build you up in this. And then, you know, you don't see them when it's just the one guy, but there's all these people that helped him out, man. I'll never forget those people.
That's crazy. It's so wild how deep the jiu-jitsu world can get in terms of like community. Like people like make all these friends and random connections, you know? It's also cool. It's a place where you go, like, you don't even talk about work. Like, you don't even know what people do, like, outside of
Dude, like if I don't go jiu-jitsu, like, for like a week, I'm a complete dick. Complete dick. Do you feel that? Like, obviously you're there every day because it's a jiu-jitsu place, but in the past, like, when you go and then you're on a roll, you're going, then you don't go for like 2 weeks, you're like, why am I an asshole right now? Then you go to jiu-jitsu and you're like, feel much better.
That's the thing, man. For me, I fall apart if I'm not training. Like, I go to pieces. So, like, what happened was, the way I got into all this was in my mid-20s, like, I fell apart. I was having, like, panic attacks. I was collapsing, and, like, it was bad. And, like, you know, I'd been around a rough crowd before that where there was a ton of drinking and things like that, a lot of drinking, some drugs, all that. And I got so tired of it, I just quit going out and I quit trying to do things. I was working dead-end jobs. I was working a lot of graveyard shifts. And for a period of about 5 years, I basically didn't leave the house, man. Like, it was just like I would go out and get food, and that was about it.
Were you still working during that time? Like, would you still go to work? Or?
I mean, I'd try to hold down jobs, man, but I'd always had, like, this severe depression since I was a kid. I mean, you know, I had some rough things happen when I was growing up, and, you know, my folks did their best, but it was rough, man. And I had this horrible depression. Then, you know, I always struggled with it, always struggled with self-esteem, all that. I got bullied real bad for a while. And then, you know, I met all these kids that were, like, also kind of messed up kids. And we all came up together through high school and all that. And, you know, it was all like drinking and, you know, kind of inner demons, man. And they were all kind of dealing with that. Well, you know, you get into your early 20s and they're still doing it. And after a while, you get sick of it, man. You're just around it too much. And it's not like fun partying anymore. It's like depressing.
Yeah, you're like, all right, what are we going to do? Like, what are we going to do, guys? Like, we can't do this forever.
Yeah, man. I got so burnt on it. So, you know, I became like a shut-in. And, you know, the whole time I would get worse and worse. And I would struggle to hold down work where I'd be good. And then all of a sudden one day, mentally, I would fall apart. You know, like, I wouldn't get out of bed for like a day or two.
Damn.
And, you know what I mean? And, like, I was so ashamed. Like, you know, you want to, like, call your work and explain to them. And, like, they don't get it, man.
Yeah,
like, most places don't.
It's kind of embarrassing to bring up to people.
Like people didn't get it. And now, you know, people are a little bit better. But then people absolutely didn't get it. So I'd lose jobs and I'd be out looking for something else. So I had this 5-year period where I started having these panic attacks. I had this horrible depression, and I was diagnosed as bipolar. So, you know, they start putting me on medications, and I start seeing a therapist. And the first therapist was pretty bad. The guy thought he was Dr. Phil or something, and just, man, not a fan, you know what I mean? Like, not a fan. But I ended up getting a better therapist later, and they start jumping me from medication to medication. So when you're doing these medications, the thing that I've learned that most people don't know, you have to advocate for yourself constantly, because they have to be adjusting them the whole time that you're taking these things, because it's guesswork. They're going to throw stuff and see what sticks. And if you don't speak up for yourself, they're just going to leave you on something that's make you miserable. So I had some of them where it was like, you know, I'm falling asleep all day. I had other ones where I'm awake for 2 days straight.
No way.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
That's crazy.
And man,
what's that one?
yeah, man. And you know, and it just got worse and worse. And sometimes I'm getting like these slight mania kind of states where I can't sleep. And man, you start feeling like you're losing your mind. You catch yourself like, you know, all of a sudden it's 3 a.m., you're listening to the same song on repeat for an hour, and you're like, man, I got organized like my DVDs in alphabetical order. And then you look at yourself doing this, and you're like, oh, I think I have a problem. And then you realize, oh, I got like the TV on, music going, a video game going. I'm trying to play with the dog. I'm organizing the DVDs, and it's 3 a.m. You know what I mean? And you're just like, something's up. Yeah. So, you know, I started having things like some of the medications were getting me so wound up. I would hear like stuff that wasn't there, man. And oh my God, that trips you out. Because like you hear something, you're like, nah, I didn't hear that. That's not real, man. Yeah. And it's not like I wasn't hearing like voices or anything like that. I mean, I wasn't hearing voices from God or anything like that. I would all of a sudden
be clear.
Yeah, just be clear. But I mean, hey, I know people, you know, I've talked to that have had that experience, man. It's scary because you lose like touch with reality. And I would hear people crying for help. And all of a sudden I'd hear somebody go like, help me. And I'd like jump to, and I'm like looking around, and it would be like, I'd be like outside walking the dog, and I'm like, oh shit, there is no one here.
And this was when you were on a medication too.
Yeah, man. And that's the thing. Yeah. Some of the medications actually made things worse.
I have heard that for sure, especially if you're actually trying to like fix something specifically, and it's maybe like adding a problem in a different area, not fixing that one thing, and now you get like two problems. Like,
yeah, man. It's just, you have to advocate for yourself and tell them like, hey, these things are going on. You need to adjust this medication.
Yeah.
So
I'm hearing shit.
Yeah, it's like shit. Dude, it's scary because you're like, man, like right now I know that's not real. You know what I mean? I know like I'm losing it a little bit. And then with time, you're like, you hear stories about people that like, they don't know it's not real anymore, and they lose that sense of reality. And man, they had me on this one medication, and I'll never forget it. They quadrupled the dosage on this thing.
Holy shit.
And like that set off alarm bells. I'm like, that's kind of messed up, man. And like, I was worried right away because, you know, this medication they're putting me on, it's 4 times the dose. So one night I'm driving my car home, and, you know, I've been out for a little bit, and I look in the rearview mirror, and there's like this dead guy in the back seat. He looks like a zombie or something.
What the hell? Yeah, you see the commercials when they're like side effects could include. Yeah. And I guess this is like the real story of side effects.
It's like a list of stuff.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
And again, I don't know if it was like lack of sleep or something.
Well, they say like hallucinations on some of like the medications out there. Like you do hear that. So like I believe it.
Man.
Yeah. I could see it from lack of sleep.
Yeah, and that might be.
Well, you combine both of them, and it's like, I mean, if you ever like drink a lot when you're on a lack, like if you don't sleep for like a whole day and then you get like drunk the next day, it's a different drunk. You know what I mean? It's like, so when you combine like a drug with like no sleep, it's a different experience.
Man, so like I see this, you know what I mean? I see it in the rear view, and I'm like, holy shit, you know what I mean? I'm freaking out. And then I look behind me and look in the back seat, and yep, still there. Whoa. And then, you know, look a third time, and it's like gone, you know what I mean? And like you're driving a little faster. You're like, I gotta get home and get off this medication. And that was the only like visual thing I ever had, but oh my God.
That sounds scary as hell, actually.
Dude, it's terrifying.
You know I'd run off the road.
That's really scary.
Absolutely scared the crap out of me, man. And terrifying. So I go through this 5-year period. And during that time, I had friends try to help me. And I had a lot of people that kind of backed away slowly. Because, you know, when your friend comes up to you and he's like, yeah, I'm hearing voices, like, man, the real ones stick around, and they're going to like have your back and be like, man, we're going to get you help. These medications are going to get you there. You're going to get through this. But a lot of people go, nope, I'm out, man. I'm not sticking around for this one. Like, this is too much. And so I had a lot of these people kind of back away slowly, and it got down and down and down where like I was like kind of left with only a couple people, and for the most part I was alone. And man, a lot of these people I thought would stick by me for like ever. You know what I mean? And it got to a point where it was kind of just my family, you know what I mean? And maybe 1 or 2 friends that were kind of in and out. And after 5 years of it, I got angry, man. I was so mad. I was like, man, all these people said they had my back. And I thought back to the people that had like kind of like bullied me and pushed me around, because in the partying days in my early 20s, I still had people that were like kind of pushing me around, taking advantage, stuff like that. And I was so pissed off. And then I ended up getting a gym membership that my folks encouraged me to go to the gym. And I was like, you know what, man, I'm gonna go for it. And I'm like, I would go in there. And because my sleep schedule was wrecked, because they're still figuring out the medications, I'm having all these problems, I would go lift for 3 to 4 hours at a time, 5 days a week. Wow. And like, I didn't know, like I had not done anything physical from age 14 to like 28.
No way.
So like nothing. Like I got cut from the basketball team my freshman year in high school. And like, the thing is like kids that have sports, it helps so much, man. Yeah. My mom was like, hey, I'll volunteer to help you guys out if you get these kids to at least be able to practice. So they got something, so they're involved in something. Man, my life could have gone an entirely different way if I was involved in something positive. I didn't have that. So, you know, I hadn't done anything from 14 to 28. I had basically been drinking and sitting around and, you know, I maybe play a game or two of pickup basketball. So I start lifting weights and I'm using like every machine there and I'm just going to machine. I'm like reading the whole thing on the side. And I'm like, okay, this works chest. I'll use this one. I'm like, this works the back of the arms. This works the front.
I just picture you like systematically like going like literally like machine to machine. You're there for like 4 hours just doing every single machine.
That's how it was.
So like this guy's an animal.
Yeah. And I was killing myself. And at the time I was 155 pounds with like a beer gut. Like I looked like hell, man. Like I looked super unhealthy. So, you know, I'd go from machine to machine. I had no clue what I was doing, man. And there was this guy up there who's this like really like buff old Italian dude. And this dude, he would come up to me and give me advice and he would help me out and he'd kind of encourage me, man. And dude, the guy kept me going because I might have given up. I might have been like, man, I can't, you know, I'm not making progress, but he'd give me little like attaboys. And like, dude, I would work harder and harder and harder. He'd give me little tips. I started reading books on like powerlifting and things like that. And, you know, I wasn't strong. So I got it in my head that I wanted to like get big. You know what I mean? Because you think like, yeah, you're like, oh, I want to be tough. I'm going to get big.
Was your brother really big at this time too?
I mean, my brother played football for Carthage, and
because he's
a
big,
big boy.
He's pretty jacked.
Yeah, he's been lifting weights since, you know, he was like in 7th grade or something, and he never misses a day. He's worked so hard, man. He's a lead detective with Arlington Heights now. I'm so proud of him.
Oh, is it? That's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool, and
he's fucking jacked.
Yeah, he's pretty jacked. Man.
Yeah, he's huge.
So, you know, I started reading these books and started working harder and harder at it, and I decided I wanted to get big. So I started reading ways to like gain weight. So I started getting like weight gainer formula. And man, I was doing like these shakes that would have like 3 raw eggs in them and peanut butter and a full banana. And you'd have to chew them, you know what I mean? Like you couldn't just swallow them. You had to like chew them. They were disgusting. And I just wasn't gaining weight. And so I started looking at like powerlifting, like, you know, sub forums on the internet, stuff like that. And I asked these guys for advice. I had one guy say, you just eat ice cream. Just eat tons of ice cream and lift heavy. And I'm like, I don't know about that. And I read about this thing called GoMad. Now, like, I don't recommend this for anybody, but here's like my little story with it. GoMad stands for gallon of whole milk a day. Gallon of milk a day.
Oh my God.
So every day I would go and buy a gallon of whole milk. And throughout the course of the day, I had to finish that gallon before night. And all day, you're pulling it out of the fridge and down in a glass of milk. Now, you're eating 3 square meals while you're doing this, and you're just lifting heavy and trying to get big. So, you know, I start like putting on weight, and I'm getting stronger and getting stronger. And I did it for like a long time, and like it was miserable. But, you know, I started to gain weight, and I started to get big, but, you know, I was getting a little fat too. And so, this is where things take a little bit of a turn. So if anybody's ever seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah. I've seen clips. I haven't seen it.
So they have a character on there named Mac. And Mac decides he's going to get, you know, big. And he just eats like burritos and chimichangas and he gets real fat. And he talks about how, yeah, I'm going to cut down and lose all the fat and there'll be just the muscle left. So, you know, I was an idiot. So I'm thinking like, yeah, I'll just lose the weight later. And I'm doing this gallon of whole milk a day, but I'm getting so bored of it. Like, it's brutal, man.
That sounds disgusting.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, I could never do that. There's like a gallon challenge, like the milk challenge thing. So imagine you're like doing that on purpose pretty much.
Every day.
It might be vulgar. Your shits must have been atrocious, bro.
It was disgusting. And the thing is, by the end of the day, you're pulling the milk out the fridge so much, it's warm by the end of the day. And you have, and the thing is, like, I'm pretty good when it comes to willpower. Like, I can force myself through miserable things. And so I got so bored of it and I was miserable. So I was like, man, you know what? I think I'm going to mix it up. Do a gallon of chocolate milk today. Why not, man? And so, you know, I start getting fat and I'm getting strong. And so I looked like Mac when he got fat. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Fat and strong.
Dude, I went from, so to give you an idea, in just a couple months, I went from 155 pounds to 217 pounds.
No way.
Oh, God damn, you were big.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And so my goal was to get to 250.
250?
Yes.
Where were you going?
Dude, I have no idea. Again, that was like, and again, going into this, I had no idea what I was doing, man. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, I'm going to get big. And I figured like, I'll just eat healthy and start jogging after that. And I'll just be like big. So, I do this and I get up around 217. And then one night I'm out at the bar, man, and I go out for a beer and like, I'm feeling pretty good. Not looking so good because all my shirts were getting real tight, you know what I mean? Showing a whole lot of belly. So like I'm out at the bar and these guys come up and they're like, hey man, you're a pretty big dude. Have you ever played rugby? And I'm like, man, the hell is rugby? And so they kind of like explain it to me and I'm like, and they tell me to be at practice on Monday and they tell me where it's at. So I still have no idea what this is. Like, I don't know what rugby is. I've never played, I never really played a contact sport. I played like basketball as a kid. And I got into a good number of fights coming up. So, I show up, I have no cleats, and the grass is wet. So I ran my ass off
just
in sliding around in shoes with no grip, trying to just hit people as hard as I could. And like, I didn't know the rules. I still don't know the rules. I still don't understand the game. They tried to teach me some of it, and it's an amazing game. But like, I don't get it. Like, I tried to learn it, man. And, I hung with those guys for a bit, and they were a lot of fun, man. And,
yeah, that's a crazy crowd, the rugby crowd, It's like it's kind of like a hockey crowd almost in a way of just some roughnecks.
Man, they drink more than almost anybody I've ever met. Yeah. Like the way they drink is insane to me. And I was kind of done drinking. I still don't drink much to this day. So I hung with them. I rode the bench for 2 games and, hung out with them and they were real fun. And then the off season came around and I didn't have anything to do. And it's like, I'd done the weightlifting thing and my goal of getting to 250 was kind of out the window because my cardio was awful. And it's like, I got to do something here. And, it's funny too. Everybody was like, yeah, you're looking good. And really, I was just looking really fat.
Like, yeah, you're looking big.
Yeah, they're like, you're looking big. Yeah. Like,
you accomplished your goal.
Yeah, it's like, man, less donuts, And
I feel like that's something someone in our friend group would do, 100%. Like for sure. Like I have a name in mind too.
Gallon of whole milk, man. Gallon of whole milk a day. Seriously, don't do it. But so during the off season, I decided to try Thai boxing class. So I go into Thai boxing and like I'm having a lot of fun with it, man. And I start losing weight, and I'm having a lot of fun hitting pads. I'm feeling good about it, and then. My wrestler friend, I met a friend up there. And later on, I'd go on to stand up in one of his weddings. And it was like, I'm working with him. And
you were like 28 at this point still? Or?
Yeah, I want to say 30. Okay. I want to say 30. And I'm working with him, and he's like, man, you got to learn jiu-jitsu because somebody's going to take you down to the ground, and they're going to beat you up. And I'm like, man, the stuff where you roll around the ground in pajamas, bro, I don't know. I don't think I want to do that. I'm like, that looks weird. And like, I just was not into it, man. And I tried like a class. I got talked into trying a class. So I go in there and there's this kid with like the Justin Bieber haircut. And like, it's a little high school kid with Bieber hair. And like, we do the class and everything. And after class, I roll with this kid. Man, this dude strangled me. Like bad, man. And like, dude, I felt so dumb afterwards. I'm like, Biebs just choked the crap out of me.
That's how it goes. It's the kid that's like the most unexpected.
You'd never see him coming, man. Yeah. Ever. And like,
it's like some kid in like a Marvel rash guard. And like, he's like 100 pounds. He just comes out there like a spider monkey.
And like, the thing is, man, like, I had been feeling pretty good. Like I was hitting Thai pads all the time. I was like, I can hit hard. And I hadn't done much sparring yet. Yeah. I got to that layer and it was like, that was a rude awakening. But, I just couldn't believe this kid just wrecked me. And I got like obsessed with it. And so I had this guy I met early on who was, kind of a coach there. He would come in and he had everything like flow charted. And he would like come in with videos and show you videos of competition and be like, okay, we're going to pause here. This guy's going to make 1 or 2 choices based on what he does. And then he would like quiz you on what the guy's reaction would be. It was crazy, man. And seeing like his passion for it and how technical he was, I was sold, man. And I just started going nonstop. And he was real big into like leg locks and things like that. And that was his thing. So real early on, I was like, man, I kind of want to be the leg lock guy. Now, like leg locks have a kind of a weird thing in jiu-jitsu. A lot of jiu-jitsu guys do not like leg locks.
And talk about like where that kind of comes from too with
oh man, so
that's really, have you heard about that?
Yeah. It's a wild story, man. And the thing is, like leg locks. Apparently, back in the day, if you leg lock somebody, they would like throw trash at you and scream
like
at you.
The poor person thing to do, right?
So what happened was, the story goes, there was a guy named Oswaldo Fada, And Oswaldo Fada came up under a guy, I think it was Luis Franca. I may be wrong on this. So he comes up and he's learning jiu-jitsu, and the Gracies are also training. And the Gracies are in the city. This guy's out in the suburbs. And, you know, there's less money. He's worked with a lot of kids in favelas. He's teaching jiu-jitsu for cheap or free, and he's trying to help people out. Now, his students would do a lot of leg locks, and that was like something they did. Well, you know, the students that had more money, they would kind of make fun of him, man. And they'd say, like, they called them shoe shiners because it was a poor person's job. And they'd like give him a hard time and be like, man, that's not legit technique. You know what I mean? And they didn't respect it. And it kind of carried on for a long time. And it became a thing where leg locks really weren't a regular part of jiu-jitsu for a very long time. They were kind of weak. And if you wanted leg locks, you would look at like Sambo guys and things like that. So time goes on, and most people are not doing many leg locks. And they start to get a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And then guys started to come out with like heel hooks, and they were doing so well, and it became this thing. And the thing with the heel hook is it twists your knee, and it can rip your ACL, and all of a sudden you have this giant injury, you're gonna need surgery. And I have a theory that one of the main reasons leg locks were so frowned upon was back in the day when, you know, you had the Gracies, the early Gracies fighting, if you ripped your ACL, it's not like you could fix that back then. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Oh, good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like before like that really good medical, you know, advances have been made.
Yeah. When I looked into it, ACL reconstruction surgery started to like first be performed in the mid 1930s. And, you know, it started to go from there. And one of the things we see differently today with jiu-jitsu is people are willing to let things break. And they're willing to like eat a leg lock and just let their ACL rip if it means they can win.
God damn.
Yeah, there's fucking crazy people out there.
Yeah, there was this guy, he just got leg locked for like 6 minutes straight, and he ripped his MCL, his ACL, his meniscus, and he broke his ankle. And he just wouldn't tap, and guys have gotten crazier. And part of that, I think, is because they know it can be fixed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I was listening.
Oh, no. Yeah, so when you think about, like, if I can go, like, let's say in the future, they go, hey, man, we can fix your broken arm in, like, 2 hours, and you're going to be good as new tomorrow. Man, like, I may make some different choices if I'm, like, a competitor.
Right. Yeah,
like, man.
Yeah.
If that's the difference between you losing and winning, you'll snap.
Because even now you're thinking, okay, I can't train for 6 months or whatever. But if you're like, I'm good tomorrow, like, fuck it, snap it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys are just like, man, they know they can continue, and maybe they win like this giant match. Maybe it's worth it to them. Yeah. And we have guys, they're like letting things break. And when it started, we've seen guys more and more focus on breaking mechanics. And that's how the submission is actually performed and actually does damage to like the body. You know what I mean? And as we've seen it evolve, it's like you have to be better and better at causing massive amounts of damage where the guy doesn't just feel like a joint pop where it's like, oh, he's going to be hurt for like a month. It has to be somewhere like he may need to go to the emergency room. You may have to go to the hospital because the damage is so severe. He may be calling an orthopedic surgeon or something. Like it's gotten crazy now. And some of the stuff's coming out. It gets sketchy, man. You got to be really careful. You have to work with people that are very safe.
Yeah.
That's the thing with like heel hooks, especially if like you're teaching to like new guys. It's like if you spin the wrong way, you're
like when you roll with it. You get 50,
if you roll with it, if they roll the wrong way, then it's their whole knees gonna fucking rip apart.
Pretty much snap yourself, right? Like
that's exactly what happens. It happens a lot. Like
yeah. It happens a fair amount, man. And it's almost like if you were to get your foot caught in a hole in the ground and then like violently spin, like it's horrible. And if they're coached the right way, they can be done very safely.
Yeah.
But you have to have very hands-on coaches. They're watching like very closely. And people have to understand, like if you're first learning it, you're not even trying to finish it. You're trying to maybe get the grip. And I talk to guys about not trying to spin and things like that and being safe because, you know, early days when I was doing jiu-jitsu and I was getting going, the injury rate was pretty high. Like we got hurt quite a bit and we went super hard. Like we tried to kill each other, but we didn't know all that much, man. And we had a lot more people getting injured. And as things slowly evolved, it got better and better where now I feel like it's much, much safer as long as you have good people in the room. And it's all about the gym culture. Mm-hmm. And, you know, back then it was pretty rough, man. These days, I try to really push for a team atmosphere and like everybody working together where I want you to get better. And if you're not tapping, I might just be like, bro, are you cool? Because this can go very wrong.
Yeah, because you even tell us, like, if someone should tap and they're not tapping, don't finish it on them.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if they're like a white belt or a blue belt, don't hurt them, man. They don't always know, you know what I mean? If it's somebody that's a competitor, obviously it's a slightly different story. You still apply it slowly, you try to give them time, but, you know, you take it up a little bit. And if the guy's a higher belt in jiu-jitsu, he may know what he's doing. He may let his arm bend some and kind of like test his limits and kind of see like, because here's the thing, man, when you're doing like martial arts, you know, if I say like, hey man, I could break your arm. Well, somebody has to stand up and go, I don't think you can.
Yeah, right.
Somebody's got to do it, man. And then you got to test it and see if the thing actually works. Otherwise we end up with like death touches or something, like no touch knockouts. Like, bro, I can knock you out with my mind.
Yeah.
And you know,
at some point,
you got to prove it. You got to make sure it works. So, you know, you got to go some. And once you understand jiu-jitsu and you understand the risk and kind of know where you're at, you can make that choice. And if it's an upper belt in jiu-jitsu, I'll apply submissions real slowly. I'll give them time. I'm going to keep going until they tap or something starts to snap, crunch, pop, whatever it is. But the thing is, you got to work with people that are going to give you that time and give you a benefit of doubt. And every once in a while, you'll see a guy come in and you just tell, man, he's off today. Like he's having a bad day. He's heated. Something's going on at home. Something's going on. And he's not tapping. Sometimes you just got to be like, man, something's up with this dude. I need to just let him off the hook. See if he's doing all right. And just be like, man, are you doing all right? Is there anything I could do? And my guys will tell you, man, I'm annoying with this, but like I check up on all my guys. I worry about students that haven't been students of mine for 5 years. I still check up on them. And sometimes they're like cool about it. Sometimes they're like, leave me alone, you're weird. But like, man, you meet these people and like, you know, you come up with them, you work so hard together, you want to know they're doing good, man. And you just want to make sure they're doing positive things in their life. And I always want them to know the door is open. Like they can always come back and train with me. And we're not going to just like murder them. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're going to welcome them back, help them out, and get them into a better spot. Because again, the focus should be like building people up and making people better. And some places you go, it's more about, you know, just absolutely being the shit out of each other. And
or being a rag doll for someone that's training for something.
Yeah, man.
You know?
And that's the thing. Like there has to be some of that to keep it real.
Yeah.
But if that's entirely the focus, you get guys that really need this and they wash out because they get beat up so bad and nobody is like helping them. Nobody's giving them that pat on the back. And this could change their life, man, because it changed mine. I mean, going through it, I went through this horrible period in my life and I got into this, and slowly as I did it, and I continued to work with like my doctors to get my medications right and all that, it slowly started to come together for me. And I slowly started to figure things out and hold down a regular schedule and be able to do more and more. And I built up confidence because again, it used to be if I went to a crowded place, I would have a panic attack. Like,
no way, really?
I would start hyperventilating. My face would go numb. My hands would be shaking, and I would like have to sit down or I would fall over.
And now it's nuts because I promise you, there's no place that he'd walk into he wouldn't kill like everyone in there. Almost like 99.9% of the time he would murder everyone there. So that's why it's so wild to hear because you see him roll and you're just like he would fucking snap everyone's head.
I can't look at like I don't feel like I'm a tough guy at all, man. And the thing is like I don't even usually feel like I'm any good at this stuff. But like some days I'm like, oh, I could do some cool things.
Yeah.
But again, my self-esteem is so low and I think so little of myself. I'm always so depressed. But man, all these
so
people,
wild.
Yeah, I got like Ray in the gym. I got so many great students, you know what I mean? And seeing them believe in me makes me want to do better, man, because like, I may not believe myself, but I think the world of them, they're incredible, man. And I look at the things they do and they're all amazing in their own right. Like they've all done these things. They're just incredible. And so many of them are just nice people day to day. And man, it's so hard. It's so easy to become bitter. It's so hard to be a good person day to day. And like you go out and get food, you stop somewhere, person behind the counter's getting your food. I mean, be nice, man.
Yeah.
Like say, hey, how you doing? Thank you. You know what I mean? Little stuff like that. It makes a difference because like just having somebody say like, hey, how's your day, man? How you doing? Blah, blah, blah. You know, it changes things. It makes things better. I was up at Meyer. I ended up talking with one of the door greeters for like 10 minutes, man, just talking to her about it. And it was like so sad. She had worked at Chase Bank and got laid off. And now she couldn't get work. And this is what she's doing. And I talked with her about how hard that was. And man, life is hard. Like if you could do anything to make it better for people, do it. It's not like it takes a whole lot of effort, man. Just be a good person. And so many people it's easy to lose sight of when it's like, you're thinking about money all the time.
Yeah.
You're thinking about your problems all the time. Man, everybody's got them. If everybody's just a little bit kinder, it makes it a tiny bit easier, man. And that's really what I feel like is the focus of my spot.
Which is so funny because it's like opposite of like the stigma of the sport in general.
Yeah.
I feel like, it doesn't seem like the kindest sport, but it can be, right?
It definitely can
really,
be.
Yeah.
There's some great spots, man, that really are great at building people up.
Yeah.
And, jiu-jitsu is really good at that, man. But there's also that dark side where there's some guy that just wants to kick your ass, and he knows he signs up, he can get away with that. And he doesn't care about you. He's willing to hurt you just for fun. And he'll come in there and he's just going to beat you up, man. And you run into those guys. There was always this thing about jiu-jitsu being like a douchebag filter. Mm-hmm. Man, I wish that was totally true. I've met some terrible people that are very good at jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? Yeah. Most of the people are great. Most of the people are very cool. But there's some terrible people in the sport, man. I mean, let's not pretend. Yeah. And when it comes to martial arts, man, I have a pet peeve with martial arts. I got to tell you guys, man, I hate Mr. Miyagi. I hate him, man. I absolutely hate him. There's so much about him. So you have this guy who's a janitor who knows martial arts, and he wants to teach your son and have your son come to his house and wash his car. Call the police, man. Call the police. He's about to get diddled.
Yeah.
He's about, bad things are going to happen, man. And the thing is, they acted like he was an expert on life. And there's this myth. If I give you advice about anything other than jiu-jitsu, I wouldn't listen to that advice. I'm good at jiu-jitsu, man. I'm a screw up in a million different ways. I try to be a nice person, and I'm, man, I'll own it. I'm not the brightest guy. I say dumb things sometimes. I'll own it. And 100%, it's just this idea that you have these people that are wise because they know how to beat someone up. Man, no, that's the dumbest thing ever. I mean, you're not going up to a Major League Baseball player and ask him for tips on life because he can hit a ball hard. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It makes no sense.
It is a really good point. You're not hey, Conor McGregor, how do I keep my marriage healthy?
Yeah, you know what I mean? You just don't do these things, man. Yeah. And it's this idea that guys that are teaching you martial arts are an expert at anything but martial arts. And some of them lean into it. And they lean into being a guru and an expert on just everything.
Yeah.
And then they start telling you about how to live your life. And they start telling you about all other aspects. It could be marriage, dating, money, any of that. And back away quickly, man. Don't back away slowly. Run at that point because you don't want to be around that, man. Yeah. It's just bad news.
Yeah, I fortunately I haven't had that bad experience at gym yet because I've only been with my one gym now, and it's like you say, it's like a little family there. You know what I mean?
That's how it should be, man. Yeah. That's always how it should be. And the best thing whenever you go into a jiu-jitsu gym, if anybody's listening, you're thinking about a jiu-jitsu gym, when you go into a gym, look around and see how many long-term members there are. If that gym has been there for 10 years and there's not purple, brown, and black belts, where are they going? You know what I mean? Because if they're not sticking around, something's up with that. There's some reason for that.
That's a good point.
My guys, I'll tell you, some of my guys, we'll be in our 80s. We'll still be talking about jiu-jitsu or something, man, 100%. Because they know, no matter what happens, man, I got their back. And they're just such good friends and all that. And we've stuck together.
You got a lot of OGs there.
I do, man. Yeah. One of my guys, Fernando, he hasn't trained with me in a couple years. And he went into the military. And he contacted me this week. In 2 weeks, he's officially going to be entering a Special Forces unit.
No way. That's pretty sick, actually.
And he contacted me, man, and I was so happy for him. And, when he found out I got my black belt, he called me.
Really?
And he called me just to talk with me. And I have another student who's in the hospital right now, having some issues.
Yeah.
Called me just to congratulate and just to talk about, being proud of me for the things I've done. And I look at these people and what they're doing with their lives, and it's man, what I do is kind of goofy. I roll around the ground trying to choke people and bend their arms and legs the wrong way. What these people are doing is incredible. And I see so many things they do day to day, and you hear about things they've done in the past in their lives, and it's man, it's amazing, and you just don't know.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, man.
That's why it is cool. Like I said earlier, you're like rolling around people like all day. Like you don't talk about anything really other than like in that moment. But it's kind of nice. It's like a little escape.
Dude, it's the best.
Yeah, it's like it's so meditative.
Best,
it's also
bro.
meditative because, like, especially I find it whenever when you're rolling live or whenever you're like sparring like with like Thai boxing and stuff. When people are trying to hit you can't really think about anything else.
No,
like,
no,
it's
like
really
everything
nice.
else.
You're just like you're locked in right there for like a couple hours, and it's nice.
Yeah,
you know?
nothing around you matters.
Yeah, you can't really be stressed.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, you're just
the
focused
opposite of
on
what
the
you
game.
think.
Yeah.
Like you'd think you'd be stressed because someone's trying to kill you, but you're very like at peace, kind of.
Well, I mean, I've had those days where someone's legit just
if they're
out
a
to
dick,
murder me. Yeah,
it's a
and
little
that's
different.
the thing, man. If you're ever working with anybody that clearly does not have your safety in mind, don't work with them, man.
I went to Carlson Gracie when I was probably from like 13 to 15. And when I was 15, like my last year I was in there was this guy, like full grown, like 45-year-old guy on roids. Like you could literally see the freaking marks on his arms. From shit. He would try to kill me. He got kicked out of the gym.
He's like, "Come here, you little fucker."
He would flip me over. Like my dad at one point was like, "Hey," because he'd always like sit down and watch at the end of the mat, like us sparring.
Yeah.
And like usually when you go with an older guy and you're 15, he's gonna let you kind of get on him, or he's gonna show you, "Hey, you know what? You want to put your arm here." This guy would just pick me up and fucking throw me on the mat. And then he'd like start choking me, and I'd like tap out my dad's like, "Hey, slow down." This guy did it so many times to kids, he got kicked out of the gym.
Yeah,
but like,
man.
what a prick.
Yeah, what
are
a
you
prick.
doing?
Honestly,
like,
yeah.
honestly, what an asshole. You're
Yeah.
a grown man.
You know what it was, man? That kid with the Bieber hair got him. And he's still mad about it.
That's so true.
Yeah,
That
is
kid
true.
with the Bieber hair got him. But no, man, there's dudes out there that just don't care about you.
don't
And
give
the
a
thing
fuck.
is, like, if you're going to train with somebody that does not have your safety in mind and they're just trying to kill you, man, don't do it. Go compete.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Go out there and compete because you know going into that. Because if we're working in the gym, I'm looking out for your safety, and then you're actually trying to like injure me and you're going to crank out a submission or something, man, like, you know, tell me that up front and be like, okay, we're actually fighting, and like it's a different thing. And you know, I was never a big competition guy, man. I was always a terrible athlete. So going into it, every time I do something cool, I'm like, man, that's weird. I can do that now, and like it still trips me out a little bit because like I was so bad when I started this. I couldn't do any of it. I was such a slow learner. I had to stay and put in hours and hours and hours. And I would be, you know, I would stay for like 2-3 hours after class and just work on things. And I just tried to figure it out. And it was so difficult for me, man. And being such a terrible athlete, I knew early on I was not going to be some great competitor. And I didn't want to fool myself. Because you see some guys where it's like, man, you know, you're not in the physical shape. You're not coordinated. You're not putting the work. And sometimes they just want to test themselves. And I respect that. I do. But, you know, the risk reward just didn't seem right for me. I did 2 tournaments, and I'm glad I did them. And I had a good experience getting out there and going after it. Second one, I did pretty well. First one, did not go my way, man. It was rough. Second one, I did pretty well.
You went to
I did Fuji.
Yeah, Fuji's a good tournament, man.
That was a good first one. And like it's definitely good to do if you haven't done it, because it just shows like you're just so fucking tired. Like, you know,
Oh, yeah.
It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
either you could be right after, or you could be like 10 minutes. Like I thought I was a white belt when I did. I was in the white belt thing. I was like, oh, I think I'll do pretty good.
was a while
nope.
ago, yeah.
I got smoked. But I didn't cut any weight.
Yeah.
I was 180. So like and I was with kids that were fucking enormous.
You get some big boys, man.
Enormous.
And that's such a steroid-heavy sport too.
Oh yeah,
like,
steroids are
competition.
such a big part
It's
of jiu-jitsu,
huge,
man.
Like Gordon,
Like, they don't test, and some of the guys like are pretty open about the fact they're taking stuff, and I appreciate the guys that are honest about it. But I do worry like kids are going to think like that's what they should do.
Yeah.
And you know, like some of these guys have doctors working through it so they can do it safely, and like, man, don't mess with that stuff.
I feel like that's like a barrier that's going to keep them from getting really big, like as a sport, because
It's a problem.
Because if you think about it, every sport that's big has testing and testing. UFC's testing, but there's still people that slip by, obviously. But I feel like a sport like that where it's like not like a priority for that, it's like I feel like it's a barrier of like just blocking it from getting big. You know what I mean? Because like people just like are like, oh, they're all fucking juicing. This isn't a real sport.
I feel like it's really growing and it's kind of building up.
No, for sure.
And I think it's going to get to a certain level, and they will have to clean it up at some point. And I really hope they do, man.
Yeah, guys like Gordon are like really bringing it to like more of a spotlight. I feel like.
Yeah,
and
he's
even
on
Joe
it, right?
Rogan.
He's obviously on him, right?
Yeah, well, he talks about it.
He talks about openly though, right?
He cracks me up. So Gordon, I've never heard him flat out just say he's taking stuff, but he said things like somebody said something about him being on like juicing and being on steroids. And he goes, I'm as clean as every other athlete in this sport.
Yeah.
And I love that, man. And he does things like, yeah, there was one, he was at a juice bar. And the juice bar had this giant neon sign that said juice or die. And he took a selfie with the juice or die. Like, he plays with it. He knows what he's doing. And the thing is, like, he's honest about it, man. I appreciate that. And I worry kids are going to think that's what they have to do, man. And I hate that because, again, most people don't know what they're doing. You're going to have people having long-term issues. They're really going to screw themselves up.
Yeah, it's a very science-oriented thing. Like, there's a lot of thought into it.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, I had done some competition. I did a little bit, and it wasn't my big thing. And I'll roll hard in the gym. You know what I mean? I have no problem with that. I didn't like the
rolling
build-up.
Right, it is competition.
Yeah, and like we're always rolling, and some days you're rolling hard and others. And when I visit some gyms, if it's a gym where they go real hard all the time, sometimes it takes me a little bit to like adjust to the pace. You know what I mean? Because some gyms are much faster paced, and it takes a little bit, but it's the same techniques and same things. So like, you know, I usually get used to it after a week or two, and then it's like, okay, yeah, I can hang again. I'm, you know, in a good spot. But usually I'm a little bit more laid back with it because, again, for me, the main purpose is that mental health and physical health benefit. It's just, you know, you feel better, you get in a little bit better shape, you can defend yourself. Like, it's all of these things put together. But, man, nothing more than mental health. I mean, that's the biggest aspect for me. And anytime I'm dealing with an injury, it's so tough for me. You know what I mean?
Because it even, like, works on, like, the physical side of me. It's just exercise in general. It's like the dopamine burst of exercise, and then also being around people and like positive stuff. I mean, it chemically is working in your benefit to do something like that.
Yeah, like whenever people talk to me and they say like, "Oh, I'm depressed," it's what do you do physically?
Yeah,
and it's like you have to do something physically. And I'll tell you, medications help me a lot, but physical activity is the main thing. And being able to try to set some amount of routine. And I'm terrible about that because I still have like, there's nights I'll be up till 5:30 in the morning. And I have like, it's not like full blown manic episodes, but I'll be freaking out, man. Like things will get in my head, and like it could be things that somebody said or something that happened like 10 years ago. It's stuck in my head. And all of a sudden I'm thinking about it, obsessing with it. And I won't get to sleep till like, 5:36. And then maybe I got to be at the gym in the morning, and I show up and you can see it. I got the dark circles, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'm always going to be smiling. I'm always going to make it fun. You're never going to see a day where I'm going to act like a downer. Like that's not acceptable because as an instructor, I bring the energy to the gym. I make it fun, man. And if I'm not making it fun, I'm failing at my job. When you come in, you should be having a blast. You should be having a good time, and you should feel safe, man. And it's the combination of that. It should be fun, it should be safe, and it has to be effective. If you're learning something and there is no resistance and you're just walking through it, you don't know that thing, man, until you're using it live against people that are trying to get you. You don't really know. And, early on, and that's the thing, when I was doing Thai boxing, I started off hitting pads all the time. And I was like, man, I'm really getting tough. I can hit the pads so hard, and my cardio got really good. Then you go to spar and somebody's punching you in the face, and a lot of that technique just goes right out the window. You're like, oh, wow, I suck, man. And building from there and learning to relax more and not try to like throw things hard and just play and figure it out and get the timing, get the range. It's the same way with jiu-jitsu, man. Being able to flow and figure out the movements and how to move your own body, and then how to like pin people and hold them down and like little things like that, and learning how to do it without using a ton of effort, and then slowly speeding it up and adding resistance. And then when you go live and you're put under pressure, then use everything you got, man. And there's been times I'm like using every muscle in my body, and you do that. This idea that you don't use any strength, you do jiu-jitsu. No, man.
When you're rolling with someone that's good, or whenever it's like a real match, it's the weirdest muscles are sore for a week. Yeah, it's tough, obviously, especially when you're going for like an hour straight. Like I was even sore after Wednesday, because we were rolling for like an hour there.
Yeah, I was there rolling until like 11:30.
That's fucking crazy.
And I mean, I was talking and taking pictures of people and doing that, and I started getting more rounds and all that, and like I got in quite a bit. And man, I train so much smarter now, and it's like I'm so much healthier than I was, and I managed to get my diet to a better place. I worked with somebody who is the CEO for the company Factor. They do meal prep and all that, and they are fantastic. I highly recommend them. And working with him, he told me a little bit about his company.
If you want to sponsor this,
yeah. I talked with him, and I was like, man, I'm going to try it because I already thought about meal prep. So I gave them a shot, and man, it's fantastic. And I'm down like 20, 25 pounds now.
No way.
Yeah,
really?
I was 195. I'm at about 169, 170 right now, which is crazy.
Wow.
And I train so much smarter, I'm not getting injured all the time because there's a couple things. So going into jiu-jitsu, I don't really like myself. So we got that factor. I'm like, low sense of self-worth, all that. I want to learn the real thing, so I want to make sure it's legit. And I'm very competitive, and I don't like to lose. So there were times where, I should have tapped, and I did not tap.
Yeah.
And I found out, man. I found out. And that's one of the reasons I'm so sensitive about white and blue belts getting hurt early on, is because they don't know. And I didn't totally know, and I would get broke off sometimes. And like my first month of jiu-jitsu, I had a guy who was an absolute jerk, pop my elbow completely out, and it popped back in, and then I couldn't lift more than 4 pounds with that arm. And remember, I'd been lifting a lot, and I couldn't lift more than 4 pounds. I had to do a bunch of physical therapy. Wow. And dude, it was hard to come back. And I mean, I had times where I popped like a knee out, or my favorite one, like the one that's the craziest. I had a time I was helping a friend get ready for his amateur MMA fight. And it was like his first MMA fight, and he was so excited.
Is this one in Uganda?
No. I can talk about that. Yeah. I mean, I that's not my story to tell, but I can introduce it. So, anyways, one day I'm helping this guy get ready for an amateur MMA fight, and I get punched in the eye pretty good, and I get a pretty nice sized black eye, and I'm like, no big deal, you know what I mean? I'm going to train the next day. The next day I go in, and I get kneed in the side of the head, on the same side as the eye, and I'm like, it feels a little funny, it feels a little weird. And I'm like, who cares? I'm training tomorrow. So I went in the next day, and I was the dummy for a choke. It demonstrates to class. And Tim, who just gave me my black belt, I mean, he's the best dude, man. He's demonstrating his triangle choke. And it's so tight, man. And I feel the pressure building. And all of a sudden, something in the back of my eyeball pops.
Oh, shit.
And I feel something in my eye, like in the back, just pop, like something burst. And for about a month, I couldn't move my eyes side to side in my head. I had to turn my whole head. I had to like Batman. And before you asked, I did not see a doctor. I was just like, I want to go back to training, man. I just ignored it and kept going. Jeez. Because again, not the brightest, man. I do some pretty dumb things. You know what I mean? There's tough and there's being really stupid. And I'm definitely a little bit of both. Probably much more stupid than tough. Anyways, so that was my favorite. And, later on, I had an optometrist look at it, and he did like this scan thing, and you could see a spider web where in the back of my eye where it like had burst. And you can actually see, where there's scar tissue. And now if I don't get enough sleep, or if I'm like really stressed out, I get like this little throbbing pain. I feel it, man. I feel it. Like, damn. I get that one. So, and then this left elbow, it gets stuck. And I try to straighten my arm, and it's like, it's not going. And I have to like bend it and like get it to pop back where it's supposed to be. And then I've had my ankles ripped. I almost had to have a full ankle reconstruction on my, I want to say my right. I think my left was the other one. I get mixed up. If I have my shoes off, I just look, okay, which one has the giant lump on it? And it's like, oh yeah, that's the good one. That's the good one, man. The other one's the bad one. So I had so many crazy injuries. I got choked unconscious so many times, man. And like, I was so stubborn. I'd be like, you're not going to get me. And then next thing you know, I'm like drooling. And I'll never forget the first time my buddy Brian got me with a rear naked choke. And I'm like, man, I'm not giving up. I'm going to get him. I'm going to show him I'm better. Like, I've been working so hard. He's got the choke, and I'm pulling his arm down. And I'm fighting. And all of a sudden, I'm on an airplane. And that airplane is plummeting towards the ground. It's shaking like crazy. But I have a Jack and Coke, so I really don't care. So I'm just like drinking my Jack and Coke, and the plane's plummeting down. Everybody's screaming. But I was so peaceful. I was so happy. I'm just sitting there with my drink. And right before the plane hit the ground, I wake up, and he's holding my feet up, and he's shaking my feet.
Oh, no.
And he was like, you almost died. And I'm like, I'm good now. Let's roll again. And he's a good friend. He forced me to take one round off, and I was back at it. And there's been plenty of times where I get choked out, And I wake up and I just start going again. I'm like, it's fine. Let's just go.
Let's keep going.
I'm like, no big deal. I've been here before. I've been on this little ride many times. I had one time recently where a guy got me, and I'd started off all relaxed, and he got me with this sneaky choke, and he puts me out, and I wake up, and I was a little mad about it. And, he's my buddy, but I'm competitive. And I look at the timer, and there's still like 4 minutes on the round. So I wake up and I'm like, I got 4 minutes. I got to get him as many times as possible in that 4 minutes. So I leg locked him. I think I got him like 4 or 5 times in that, 4 minute period, just going for it over and over and over again. But yeah, man, I've taken a few naps, just a few.
Gone to sleep a few times.
Yeah, the guy gave my black belt. Oh my God, he's put me out multiple times to a point where, and he's a really tough guy, you know what I mean? But he came up to me and is like, hey, I don't want you to die. You should probably tap a little earlier because you shouldn't die doing this. And, it was always in the back of my head. It was like, man, if I go out, this is it. I'm doing something I love. It's like, hey man, we're going to know it's the real thing.
It's Fast and Furious
let's
guy.
Go.
Dude, with jujitsu.
See, coming back to it again, kind of tough.
Yeah.
Really stupid. You know what I mean? Hey, I'll own it, man. I'll own it. And here's another good one for you. So I've only had to have one surgery from jujitsu. And I did have to have one. And it was a freak thing. And I broke this finger. And you can see I got a big scar on it.
Breaks, bro. I broke my fucking 2 toes and a finger. It's the worst shit in the world.
I've probably broken a dozen total over the years. It's just happened. But this one, we had an in-house tournament. And I wanted to win so bad. Because again, if I'm there and I'm on the spot, I'm very competitive. So I feel it snap. It gets caught on the mat and it snaps, man. And I feel it and it's like, man, I'm just going to tape it to a finger next to it after. So I just keep going. And I go for about another 15 minutes because I want to win. And I'm you could see me grit my teeth and people saw it break. And, I'm just going. I just kept going. And they eventually called it a draw. And, the whole thing ended. And so after class, I realized I can't tie my shoes. Normally I break a finger. I could still use my hands pretty well. And I had to have this kid tie my shoes. This real sweet kid helped me out. And then I get home and time passes and I'm icing it and everything. I go see a doctor and it's a spiral fracture. And they tell me okay, just don't let anybody bump it, anything like that. And, it might heal straight. So eventually the swelling goes down and I close my hand and that finger folds outside my palm. Whoa. And it's way out there. So, they present me my options and they're like, okay, we could do the surgery. It'll put it back together. And they told me the recovery time. And I was like, man, that's a long time to be away from jiu-jitsu. And again, if I'm not physically training, it's so taxing on my mental health. It's a huge risk for me. You know what I mean? Because I start to fall apart again. I have to be physically doing something. And so I'm kind of freaked out. I'm like, man, that's a long time to be out. And they say the other option would be to let it heal. And you're going to have arthritis. It's going to be very painful. And you're not going to have great function because of the way it folds. So I hear these options and I'm thinking about it. And again, not the brightest, but I have this idea. And I say, okay, if you amputate that finger, can I get back on the mat sooner? And I'm yeah. And I'm if you amputate the finger and you just cut that finger off, can I get back to training sooner than the recovery time if you do the surgery? And I got the funniest look from them. And I was dead serious, man, because at the time I was so desperate and I was so freaked out at the aspect of not being able to train physically. I was yeah, I'll give up that finger if it means I can get back on the mat.
Look at John Jack Machado.
Dude,
go to the bathroom too.
He was a guy I really looked up to watching him too, man. Because I used to have this thing where I would tear at my fingers and it's an obsessive compulsive thing. And when I started
bite your nails?
Well, it's kind of like that. It's ripping at the skin.
I fucking do that all the time.
Yeah, and my fingers would get raw.
Yeah,
it hurts.
Yeah.
And there's a name for it. I always forget. I went on Reddit and read about things like that. And it's somewhat common. A lot of people deal with it. And I would get it so bad, it would be down into my hand.
Oh, shit.
Really bad. It was terrible. And it was super embarrassing. And every once in a while, somebody would notice and they'd be your hand's really red. What's going on? And, I would just never answer. I would just change the subject, something like that. Be oh, don't worry about it. Well, it made it really hard to hold the gi. Like, because my hands hurt so bad some days. If it was real bad and I was having these issues, I couldn't hold the gi well. So guys like Jean-Jacques Machado and Marcelo Garcia was my guy. And watching them and seeing how they just used overhooks and underhooks, well, I could do that. You know what I mean? Like, I could do all the no-gi grips and not have a lot of pain. But if you ask me to hold onto a gi and like fight with the gi and hold the sleeve, something like that, you know, my fingers were already like so raw. It's like, you know, I couldn't do much and I really struggled with it. So I really like gravitated towards working without the gi and following these guys that were the no-gi guys. And I kind of fell into that crowd. And later on, it kind of led towards me going out and meeting the 10th Planet guys and meeting like Eddie Bravo and working with all those guys. Some of the nicest guys in the sport too, just incredibly good, just great guys, man. And I would go out to Chicago and visit Josh Piscini, who's a coach out there. He's a wonderful coach. And I would go out there and hang out with those guys, man. And that crowd, that's a tough room, man. They get after it. They work very hard. And, you know, I went out there at first. I was really getting my ass kicked and slowly started to adapt and get better and get better. And, man, they were so positive about everything. And, like, I was at a tournament and they were doing a team photo and they had all their guys there. And they're like, man, you come and train with us, get in this photo. You belong with us. You're one of our guys too, man. Even if you're somewhere else, they made me feel like accepted, and they really did look out for me, man. And you need somebody encouraging you when you do this stuff. I mean, especially early on. Like when it was early on, and I was getting my ass kicked so bad that I would like walk off the mat because I would go to a point of exhaustion. Like I would be dead. I'd walk off the mat. I'd go straight to the bathroom. I'd break down crying, man, because it's like I wasn't good enough. And I wanted it so bad. I wanted to be good at this thing because I loved it so much. I'd break down and I'd kind of like try and make it look like I was okay and then go back out and roll more. And there was this guy, Glenn, and he would give me the shortest, like little attaboys. And he would just be like, you know, doing good, man, getting tough. Keep going, keep going. And he'd be like, he'd come up to me, pull me off to the side. He'd just be like, it'd always be something short, but he just encouraged me. And man, stuff like that keeps you going. You know what I mean? Sure. You need some of that. And some of those guys, I'll never forget them build me up, man. Because like getting my black belt, like it's cool. Like, and you know, everybody's like, congratulations to you. And you know, man, for me, it's like, congratulations to all of us because like I'm this thing that these guys built. All these fantastic people like helped me to get to this point. Because again, I never believed myself. I didn't think I could do any of this. And like, I tried really hard, but I was never like, man, I always looked at people. I'd be like, man, I'm never going to be as good as that guy. I'm never going to tap that guy. And, you know, eventually I started getting a little better and people would encourage me and they'd build me up and they just pushed me to try and try again. No matter how many times I lost. And, you know, later on, I got introduced to wrestling. I never wrestled, man. I didn't know how to wrestle. I thought wrestling was just if you were like crazy strong and had crazy cardio and that was all about. And I started to learn like how wrestling can be really technical. And, you know, I had a guy named Eric Hendricks really introduce that to me and I really got deep into it. And, you know, now I love wrestling. Wrestling's incredible. I'm not great at it. I'm always trying to get better. You know, you're always studying. You're always getting those rounds. You're always trying to improve. And it's just, you're always working at, man. And there was a Nate Robluski, who I got to call out here. He was the guy that got me into heel hooks. And he was teaching me what Marcelo Garcia and Ryan Hall were doing. And man, these guys just built me. And I'm like what they have made. You know what I mean? I worked hard. I showed up. I put in the effort. And I didn't quit. But without these guys, I'd be nothing. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And yeah, man, like I'm kind of proud of myself, but kinda. These guys.
That's crazy.
Well, it's these guys, man. They've been so incredible to like help out somebody that was so like uncoordinated and in such lousy shape.
Yeah.
And just, you know, had my story. And, you know, a lot of my old friends are like, you know, not around anymore. Like a lot of them with drugs, suicide, bad things happened, man. And some of the ones that I used to hang out with, they're not doing so well today, man. And like, you know, I see them and it's like, man, I don't want to see them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, they're still in that spot.
Are they really?
Yeah, some of them never got out of that, man.
Really?
They never got into something positive, and they're still, I mean, they work hard, man. And I know so many guys, they're great guys. They're working out there hard right now, working at the bars, working in warehouses, putting in work, man. And, you know, especially the guys taking care of their families. Like my buddy Josh is, he's taking care of his family. He's doing what he's got to do. And he works hard. I'm proud of him, man. And, my guy Rob out in New York, I mean, he's driving a gas truck, you know what I mean? And it's just like, you don't hear much about these guys, but these guys are incredible. What they do is such a big deal. Like me getting a belt for rolling around the ground with dudes, like it seems kind of silly, man, when I think about what these guys are doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, the guy that goes and does a 9-to-5 job and takes care of his family, a lot of people look at, no, it's just what you're supposed to do. But there's a lot of people that don't do that, man. Sure. They just walk away. And like the guys that really put in the effort and they're like, and they're still positive. Like, my guy Richie is a professional bodybuilder.
Yeah, Richie.
He has something like 12 titles. Damn. And I'll tell you, he wakes up every day and he lifts early in the morning. He lifts in work boots and work clothes. He doesn't wear any fancy like gym stuff. He works on his work boots and he kills himself. He works hard. And then he goes to work and he's working as a plumber and he does physical labor, like manual labor for, 8-10 hours. Then what's he do? He goes home, he lifts again.
Damn.
Then what's he do after that? He comes to my classes.
Comes into class, yeah.
Yeah, and he kills people.
Yeah.
And if I have a new guy,
he's happy every time.
He's happy every time.
Yeah.
He's positive with everybody. Some new kid who's like 14, 15 asks him about like weightlifting, asks him for like tips. Man, he helps him. He takes the time. Like so many guys would be like, look it up online. Like go read a book. Mm-hmm. Man, he takes the time and he really encourages people. And there's so many people I know that are like that. They're just good people out there doing positive things. And some of them are minor things, man. Just being nice to people day to day. My guy, Josh, I hang out with him and I watched him, every single person he talked to. He was so like friendly and respectful and he treated everybody right. And that's what martial arts should be, man. And sometimes it's not. It's not all the bowing. It's not calling people sir. It's not like the uniform. It's treating people right and treating people with respect. And understanding people are going to fail and you have to help build them back up, encourage them to do something great. And that's what this stuff taught me. That's what this stuff does. And that's why I try to do for people. And every time a student walks in that door, whatever their walk of life, whatever their physical ability, like, I don't care if they're going to be a world champ. I care about like the spirit. Are you going to put in that effort? Are you going to come in and fail and do it again? And if you keep coming in, I'm going to push you. I'm going to push you to whatever you're capable of. You know what I mean? I'm not just going to let people beat on you. I'm going to push you to a limit that you can grow. And I'm going to try and encourage you to just get better and better and better, man. And hopefully that reflects in all aspects of your life and it helps.
I mean, that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it is powerful. And then there was one thing that we were kind of talking about a little bit earlier when like the origination of the leg lock and such with like the Gracie family.
Oh,
Ray
sure.
always tells me a lot about.
Yeah, you gotta tell us about the Gracies.
Because I know they got a lot of shit.
So, well, I mean, here's the thing, man. The Gracies are absolutely incredible. They are, man. And we wouldn't be here without the Gracies. And sometimes I talk about things that are like Gracie history and people say like, some of it's kind of controversial. And they'll say, oh, you can't say bad things about the Gracies. And it's not even them saying bad things most of the time. You know what I mean? There's some things, I don't agree with. And, when it comes down to it, it's kind of like they did incredible things and then they're exaggerated a bit. Elio Gracie went against a guy who was 40 pounds heavier. They say he was 80 pounds heavier. They say Elio Gracie, the one that got me, they would always say, oh, he was very sickly and he couldn't go up a flight of stairs without, having trouble breathing, things like that. Man, there's pictures of him on the high school swim team. I'll tell you.
Yeah, he was an athlete.
I would like to be in that kind of shape, like now, you know what I mean? I'm like, damn, bro, he's in good shape, you know what I mean? And, sometimes, they'll make it sound like the Gracies invented leverage. And like, they invented some great things, man. They did some great work. Let's not get too crazy with it, though. And the thing is, I feel like when you exaggerate something and then people find out one detail is like exaggerated, they question things. And all of a sudden, the things that they legitimately did that are incredible kind of get lost and they lose some power. They lose a little bit of power because, you start to question all of it. And that's kind of a problem when it comes to Gracies is sometimes you hear, and the thing is, there's a large number of different pieces of the Gracie family. Some of them like each other, some of them don't. It always cracks me up. I meet so many people that want to talk about the Gracie family all the time. Carlson Gracie Jr. lives in Chicago. He lives here. Like, he has a gym in Chicago. And I talk to these guys, and Gracie this, Gracie that. Okay, have you gone out and taken one of his classes or gone to a seminar? Like, he's right here. You know what I mean? You can meet one of the actual guys. You could go talk to him. And I've heard he's a great guy, man. I've always heard good things. And it's like, you know, and part of it with me too is hero worship. I hate hero worship because I think it's dangerous. You know what I mean? And it's dangerous because you start looking up to somebody and you get this myth that this person is perfect. And then you meet them and they always say, don't meet your heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like a lot of time you get real disappointed, man. And yeah, it's not a good way to go. You know what I mean? Don't put anybody up on a pedestal. It's more kind of like, what did they really do? What do you really know about them? And I'll tell you, so I got my black belt. And there's a thing like belt lineage in jiu-jitsu. And that's, you know, tracing who got their belt from where and things like that. And, you know, like, who is your instructor's instructor and things like that. And it used to be a way to look and see if somebody was credible. Because, you know, did they learn from, you know, credible people? And now there's so much information. People are so good. People are amazing today that, you know, it's focused on much less. And there's a lot of famous guys that people will, you know, pay and really go out there and, you know, guys will pay for a belt and, you know, they go out and then they have the famous guy's name attached to them. But do they know the famous guy? Is he a good person? Yeah, I mean, he's good at jiu-jitsu, but you're going to wear his name every day and you don't know him?
True.
That's the thing, man. And like, you know, and then maybe you hear stories. Maybe like some of the guys aren't as great people as a lot of people like act like they are. You hear things and you're like, man. And so over the years, I started to question about like wearing, you know, gear that had people's names on it and things like that. And it came down to like, I like representing the guys I know. So my belt lineage is Tim Thielen. That's it. That's my guy, man. Because I know Tim does the right thing by people. He takes care of people. I've seen him go out of his way to help people that he could have just ignored. And, you know, he trains his ass off. His son is like killing it in wrestling. And he's dealing with this injury right now. And like, he had to have surgery to put his collarbone back together. And Tim actually came and did my black belt promotion, leaving his son at home. And that was insanely tough for him. And that's the thing. He cares so much. And he went right back to take care of his son, as he should. And it's just like, I've seen him be a stand-up guy. I've seen him be a good person. That's the name I want, man. I don't care if it's some famous guy. Like, if I have the famous guy on there, that's cool. Like, people that know a little bit about jiu-jitsu, maybe that impresses them. But guys that know Tim, they know that's a big deal, man. Because if Tim is vouching for me and Tim's saying, like, hey, he's good at this, and Tim wouldn't give a belt to somebody that was, you know, a bad person. He wouldn't give it to somebody who was, you know, a jerk out there hurting people and being a prick. And, you know, I'm very proud to represent that name, man. That means a lot to me. And some guys will laugh and be like, yeah, I got my belt from, you know, so-and-so. They got their belt from the Gracies and we have the direct lineage. I don't care. I don't care, man. Yeah. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, what can you do on the mat? Are you good?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's all solved pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. You roll in, man, I'm by no means a big deal. I do all right, but there's plenty of guys that can kill me. You know what I mean? I know that. I've worked with very good people. And that doesn't mean every day I'm not thinking and plotting against them. I want to tap everybody. I never lose to anybody and go, yeah, I was supposed to lose. Yeah. No, I have a buddy that comes into town and I roll with him and he's 325 pounds. And I start in bottom half guard every time. And he smashes me. I get smushed, man. And like, you never hear me walk away and go, oh, it's okay, I lost because he's big. Because when you start making excuses like that, you're like, oh, it's okay, I lost. He's a big guy. Or you go, oh, it's okay, I lost. He's younger. Or he's stronger. He's in better shape. He's flexible. I mean, man, at what point do you just say like, okay, the excuses are enough? Yeah, you know what I mean? Because when you start making excuses and you make it okay to lose, it just, you're not going to progress, man. Like, of course you're going to lose. Everybody loses. But every time I lose, it's like, what could I have done better? And even if it's an impossible situation and it's some monster that I have no chance against, I'm still thinking, man, maybe I could have tricked him and done like something else here. And maybe I can sneak him and get that leg lock. Maybe I can do something to get a choke. Like I'm always like plotting against him in some way. I'm never just going to walk away and be like, it's okay, I lost. Yeah. No. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, sometimes I'll lose a little sleep if I get tapped out too many times. I'm like sitting up at night and I'm like, oh man.
Drew, do you do that? I feel like Drew,
I get irritated as fuck when I have a bad day where I get tapped a bunch.
Right?
Well, like Drew would just be mad all night.
He just sits in the parking lot and waits for him to come out.
Yeah. And there's so many fucking killers at the gym. It's like it happens every fucking day.
Oh yeah, man. And it ain't good gym. You're gonna get lit up when you're new. And so here's the one I always ask everybody. I know you've done it. And I know you've done it. Driving home with no music on, staring straight ahead, just...
Yeah. I usually do is if somebody hits something on me, I usually throw on videos online of like
that's what you should.
That's what I usually do.
Yeah,
I'll watch stuff like right before I go into the gym. If I'm like trying to work, like I usually work like if I'm working a submission, I'll usually work that one submission for like a period of time until I got that shit down.
That's how you learn it.
That's how I usually do it. And then I move on. Like, okay, I got arm triangles. Let's move on to triangles. Let's get really good in the triangles from guard. And I'll do that way.
Always cracks me up. I always show new guys and I'm like, here's a triangle choke. And they do it like 5 times. They're like, what else you got? It's like, man, you need to be working on this. You got to put in the time. I spent 6 months where for 6 months, the only submission I was doing was rear naked choke and just trying to get as much as possible. And everything else was like, I try to avoid everything else to do this one thing. And that's how you develop the skill. And there was a while there, I like to call my shot on people. And I would be like, I'm going to tap you with this thing. Like I'd say, and for me, I love doing twisters because they're really funny. And to me, anything in jiu-jitsu that's really funny is worth like extra points because I'm entertaining myself with that one, man. And so like I would tell people, I'd be like, I'm going to twister you. I'm not going to do any other submission. I'm going to get you in a twister. And they know it's coming. And if they can't stop it and I get it, I look like I'm really good.
That's when you're in top half guard and you go under the arm and you pull their head, right?
Yeah, I mean, not from top half, but I can show you. But like,
it's about to turn to a rolling session
table.
after.
Yeah, right here on the table. We'll get a video. But like, it's a spinal compression lock. I like it because I can hold it and do it real slowly. And I'm real nice to people when I do it. You know, I don't hurt people. And I got do it real slow and I have a good laugh with it. And it's a funny submission to do. And so I would tell people it's coming. And like, if I get it on them after I told them, then it looks like I'm awesome. And if I don't get it, I get mad. And now I get like super focused on getting it the next time. And I have a buddy who's really good. And I told him, for this month, I'm only going to get you with twisters. And then, you know, I couldn't get him. So I'd work harder and harder and harder trying to get it. And I got much better trying to get him, even though I didn't have success with it. And then later on, when we rolled again, like a couple months later, I started getting him with it. And it was like, yes, he helped me build that.
That's the best when you start hitting it. Like you're like, when you start hitting, it doesn't, like, you can drill it all you want. When you're hitting it live in a roll, that's like when I'm like, fuck yes, I got it. Like, I usually, I believe that if you strangle wipe
10 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 minutes. Yeah,
okay,
we're good. Yeah, we're good. When you just practicing strangling white belts first. It sounds terrible.
What am I doing this? We're on camera.
Yeah,
no, it's okay.
I cut everything.
No, that's okay. You can put that in there. I don't mind. Yeah, I'm honest, man.
Hands right in front of you.
Yeah, just here.
Since we got 10 minutes, you got to tell them the stories about Gracie and like the newspaper articles about like the almost arrest and things like that.
Well, I mean, again, you can research these, and it gets real.
They're all real. They're online. Like it's cool.
Yeah. So there was a book that came out that was like newspaper articles about the Gracies and the history of jiu-jitsu. It's very interesting, and there was an attack on a guy. I think his name was Rufino dos Santos, and they jumped him and they beat him up, hit him with a metal box, and they injured him pretty severely. And they were looking at 2 years in prison, man. And it was like a big deal. And there's some things that come out, and you're like, man, it's not so great. You know what I mean? It makes you question things. But again, it's not all of them. And it's incidents. A big part of it, too, is I think people have this idea that respectful martial artist is like, you know, I must fight you for my honor. You know what I mean? In reality, they're like cursing at you like, I'm going to kick your ass, man. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? They're like, it gets heated. And it's a very different thing. It's like talking trash and getting ugly. And there was a thing called the Gracie Challenge where the Gracies would just fight anybody who came on. And it's part of how they got known was releasing videos of them killing people from other martial arts. It just, well, not killing, you know, beating them up. And They did for a long time, and it was a big thing that came around. Well, there was a brother that did named Gracie, and he went out and did one, and a guy showed up who was a fighter and challenged him to it, and Haben lost, and he lost that one. It's really the only one I know of they ever lost. And right afterwards, and he lost to like this French MMA fighter who took him down, got the top half guard, and kind of beat him up. And after he lost, they started like emailing this guy, like threatening this guy and being like, oh, we're going to kick your ass and we're going to come and get you and all this stuff. And then, this is debated, but he claims they showed up at his work, jumped him while he's working as a bar back, and started beating the shit out of him, and then got chased out of there at gunpoint.
No shit.
So it's like, there's stories like this, man. And hey, man, like, like whenever you hear something, it's always interesting to hear like everybody's point of view. Because again, history's written by the winners, you know what I mean? Yeah. But sometimes there's more to the story. And I always like to hear the whole story. I want to know everything, man. But again, it's one of those things where some of it can be iffy, but did they do amazing things? Oh yeah, man. They did some incredible things, but it's kind of like, they did some things that weren't so great.
It's cool to hear about the other parts,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's like anyone.
There's always bad apples.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting too, because you have Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, you have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Jiu-Jitsu has changed so much that if you go to a gym and you learn Jiu-Jitsu, you may not be learning the same martial art at another Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym, because like you have the sport of gi Jiu-Jitsu. I'm not very good at that. I'll tell you, like, I'm okay. I know some of it. I do okay. And basic Jiu-Jitsu translates very well. If you know one, you do pretty well. But still, there's things in the gi that I'm not great at. There's no gi sport Jiu-Jitsu, which is a lot of the leg locks and a lot of like more wrestling. Then you have self-defense Jiu-Jitsu. And self-defense Jiu-Jitsu, you have like old school, like self-defense, like techniques, like, knives and guns and things like that. And I had very little interest in that. Very little. And then you have MMA Jiu-Jitsu, which is totally different because you're using a cage in order to stand up. And, you're controlling top position and you're looking for the strikes. Well, in Jiu-Jitsu, usually you don't want to strike. You don't want to cause damage to a guy past like maybe holding them in a submission and getting them to quit. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a different thing. It's very interesting. And, now Jiu-Jitsu is like equal, man. It's very different where you go. And different styles for different people too, man. Some people might be really into a self-defense thing. It's not for me, but maybe they're into it. Some people might really like the gi. For me, I couldn't hold it very well because of my hand. So I was like, man, it's not for me. No gi was my thing right away, man. I love it.
I hate fucking gi.
Yeah, I was never a gi guy, man. I was never a gi guy. And I always felt like it kind of leaned into like helping the strong guy. Because if you have crazy strong grips, no gi, it's like I could spin around and do things and like I could kind of work.
It's also like not quite as practical, I feel like, in a lot of cases using the
gi. It
gi.
Depends, man. The biggest difference between the two isn't even necessarily the grips. To me, it's the friction. Mm-hmm. And the friction of the gi does change things. And it really boils down to this. If you want to get good at offense, do no gi. Everything has to be tighter in no gi. So your submissions have to be much tighter because there is less friction. People slip out more easily. But if you're used to less friction, your defense and your escapes don't have to be as good. They don't have to be as technical. You could try to explode out of things and, try to get things to slip. Well, in the gi, you're not going to slip. You know what I mean? There's that friction. So you have to be more technically minded on defense. And, there's nothing wrong with either one. I have my favorite. I think everybody should do a little bit of both, but I'm going to tell you to focus on no gi. I'm going to tell you to come to Misfits Jiu-Jitsu in St. Charles, man. Misfits Jiu-Jitsu, come do some no gi, man. And, that's what I'm going to recommend to people. Yeah.
Yeah. Get the stuff you're not chucking people throwing belts.
Yeah.
I just think it's more practical, like almost like in like, obviously it's not like quite like self-defense jiu-jitsu, but like if you want to talk about like actual like confrontation, I feel like it's like the most transferable thing.
Well, the thing I really like about no gi, in the gi, everybody's wearing the belt. And sometimes you'll have a guy wearing like a higher belt. True. And he's not all that good. In no gi, nobody's wearing a belt. You don't know.
Really it's a level playing field.
Yeah, you just look around the room and you see who's rolling. You go, man, who's doing really well?
I want out the ears.
I know what that guy's doing, man. Yeah. Whoever's doing really well. And, some guys get the belt and, look the part and, they're just... You work with him, and it's like, he's not that great. He's okay.
Yeah.
And, sometimes you work with somebody, and in no-gi, you have no idea, and you learn some really cool stuff from him. And it's like, you find out, he's like a purple belt or a blue belt. And, and if you had seen the gi and seen him in uniform, you might have said, I want to learn something from the higher belt.
True.
And it could be this guy's better. It could be this guy is better at specific things. You know what I mean? And, it's kind of like there's no standard for belts. And it kind of comes down to your instructor and what they feel like the standard is. Some will have you memorize moves. Some of them will tell you have to win competition. Some of them, you just show up every day, put in the effort. And some of them are just punch the clock. You know what I mean? As long as you're paying your dues, you're going to get that belt. You pay membership long enough, they're going to promote you. That's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you get the belt and then comes time to roll, you're in trouble. But, it's like everybody has their own standard. And, I can't say I know exactly what Tim saw, but I know Tim, and man, he's tough, and I worked real hard, and it's a big compliment getting my black belt from him.
Yeah, and in general, like jiu-jitsu is the longest kind of like belt process out of like any martial art, anyways.
Yeah,
so even like with the standards, it still takes much longer than something like karate or something in most cases. To belt up.
People ask me about like getting promoted, things like that. 12 years is average to get a black belt.
Really?
That's average. You know what I mean? So, it takes a long time, man. One of my buddies, Matt, he just got his purple belt. He was a blue belt for 14 years.
Whoa.
That's the problem with competitions too.
Yeah.
If you'll go in and like you'll face a blue belt, but this dude's been a blue belt for 4 fucking years.
Yeah.
He's sandbagging hard.
Yeah, you'll get stuff like that. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like at some point you should be like, oh, I want to move up and things like that. But, it's just, it comes down to that instructor's standard. And what are they focused on? And with my instructor, Tim, he's such a great guy, man. He works so hard. He's pushed me to get better and better. I'm very happy with that. You know what I mean? I'm good with that.
Yeah, seemed like a cool guy. It was a cool gym. That place was nice.
Dude's a murderer. Yeah, don't let him get a hold of your neck, man. I got stories. Oh, yeah.
I could see that. Where are we at?
About 4 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. I want you to, man. I'll talk for a couple more hours if y'all want.
Sure, yeah.
I'll talk to you guys all day, man. I feel like, again, once I get started, I was so nervous coming in here.
It's not bad, right?
Dude, I love it.
It's fun.
Oh, it's a thing. Like, I knew I'd have fun once I settled in, but I was so nervous coming in, bro. Like, I was so scared. I was like, oh, man. And, like, I love this stuff. I love talking about my students and these people I know. They're just like amazing, man. I got so many cool people from like all walks of life. And you look at the pictures and you're like, you could not be standing next to 2 more different people. You know what I mean? I was standing next to my student, John Berg, who's this giant bearded guy who does like strongman competition. And the other side is my student, Wayne. And Wayne's an older guy with a long ponytail, always wearing like Iron Maiden stuff. And like, they're the nicest guys, man, but you would never think like the 3 of us would be like hanging out. But man, we hit it off. We get along so good. You know what I mean? It's like you get all these random people. They're just tight, man. I got like both sides of the political spectrum, and I keep it out of my gym, but I see the social media posts. That all gets set aside, and I love that. And I've worked with like people that are millionaires. I've rolled with them, and I've rolled with people that are like struggling, working a 9 to 5, doing like, I got guys working like DoorDash that come in and stuff like that. And it's just, man, I just appreciate how it brings people together. It's cool, man.
It's like a slept on networking kind of thing. Like a lot of people think like, oh, like if I want to do business, I have to golf.
Yeah.
Like there's also a lot of opportunity to like go to jiu-jitsu, and you learn a lot. Like you meet a lot of people who like have companies or like, could be doing whatever for you. If you're looking for a job, jiu-jitsu might be a good place to find someone that can hire you.
Yeah.
People think it's just golfing or like tennis or like any of those like, quote unquote networking type of sports.
It's pretty cool, man. Yeah. And once you've like worked that hard and you've strangled each other and everything, you got a bond. Yeah. It's a little different. It's
true.
It's a little different, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. You all get your ass kicked by the same guy. You're like, I know your pain, bro. I know your pain. Yeah.
And just shout out your gym again for everybody.
Misfits Jiu Jitsu. You can go at, man, I'm spacing on this. Misfits Jiu Jitsu on Instagram. You can also look us up on Facebook, misfitsjiujitsu.com. We're at 1150 North Avenue in St. Charles, Illinois. And
anyone that can come in, he'll challenge you. It's like the Gracie style.
Hey, I'll roll with anybody, man. I'll roll with anybody. And man, I'd love to have. I've had some cool visitors lately. I just had a guy from Maine come through. I had another guy come through Jersey, and just it's so cool meeting other people. They're out after it, man. They're just friendly people. And I always know, like, if we're gonna be buddies, if the guy comes in and he's trying to look tough, I'm like, here we go. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what it's about for me, man. This hasn't been about fighting for a very long time for me.
Yeah.
Like, sure, that's part of it, but you know.
It's like that's a side effect of it. It's
a side effect of it. I just want to have fun, man.
Yeah.
And like, I'm competitive. I'm going to get after it. But, you know, I want to have a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're in the gym, it's not about that.
Yeah.
Something happened, like kind of like you say, like if you're in the gym, don't try to kill him. If you're competing, snap his shit.
I mean, you know, and the thing is, like, I always tell my guys, give them a chance. You know what I mean? But like, you know, if they don't tap, you got to go. And if it's in the gym and somebody's not tapping, and it's one of my senior guys, I'll go very slow. But yeah, man, I mean, I'll break something if you don't tap. Like, you need to tap. That's your responsibility. Because if I let it go every time, I'm like, man, I'm so good at arm bars. Man,
you don't really know. You don't even know if you could break it.
Yeah, you don't know.
And you know some mechanics like crazy. It's cool. Talking like where your hips got to be, like the leverage. It's cool.
Oh, there's so many little tricks. And like, I'm still learning. Every day, man, I'm studying and like watching videos, watching DVDs, talking to other instructors and like talking to all my students. Sometimes your students surprise you. They just figure something out. You're like, man, why didn't I think of that? And it's like, they all build it. It's awesome, man. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's amazing. Awesome. I appreciate you coming on, man. That was an awesome conversation. I enjoyed that a lot.
Dude, I feel bad. I feel like I should let you guys talk more. Like I talk.
Oh, this is what we do.
Point of the podcast.
We're interviewing.
Dude, man, I love talking about this stuff. I'm so passionate about it. And man, I hope you guys come train someday. Yeah. Just stop out and hang with us, man. Like, just come hang. You'll have fun. It's not like you're just going to get beat up. You're going to have a good time, dude. Yeah, but thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Dude, come in. I'll roll gi with you. I'll roll gi.
I like no gi better. I'll do no gi.
I like no gi better.
Dom, we
got to talk leg locks, bro. We got to talk leg locks.
I want Dom to come in with it. Do you still have your old gi?
Yeah, but I was 20 when I stopped, so I still have
Oh my God, it'd be so funny if you just came in with this gi like up to your knees and stuff. It was like up to your elbows and you're just like, who's rolling?
I did like a Taekwondo kind of thing.
That out.
Yeah. When I was a little kid, I did like a Taekwondo kind of thing. And like, man, I'm a hoarder. I don't throw anything out. I got all kinds of stuff that like, why would anyone keep this thing? You know what I mean? And I found that uniform. It's like from when I was in like 7th grade. I still got it.
You got to wear it in.
Oh, dude. Yeah, I'm a fat guy in a little coat. That one. That'll be fun, man.
We wore, for Christmas, we had this like thing at his gym and everyone wore like Santa costumes, like full on like suits and hats and shit. And we all rolled in like Santa costumes. It was funny.
Dude, I was cooking in the Santa suit. And then on Halloween, we do suit and tie rolls. Everybody wears a suit and tie. You just buy a crappy one from Goodwill because we're going to rip all the buttons off and rip the arms and legs off of it. Like, it's going to end up in pieces. It's so much fun, man.
That is pretty cool.
That's the closest we get to gi.
A lot of guys do jujitsu and they're so serious all the time. It's like, man, take a minute and reflect that this is kind of silly. Like, have some fun. You know what I mean? You don't have to just be competitive every time.
Yeah.
Like, there was a point where I was just like kind of burnt out. And, you know, you get that way because I haven't taken a break in 12 years. And for a couple weeks, my goal was to pass people's guard and then sit on them. And I would just sit there doing this. And I would do it over and over and over again just for laughs, man. And I had a blast with it. I learned some stuff. But more than anything, it entertained me. It kept me going. And that was back at being more competitive after I got through the burnout. You know?
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone
guys
for
watching. Appreciate it.
I hope that you all learned something. I hope you guys, the second jiu-jitsu podcast, I hope you guys start to checking out gyms around you. If you're around here, go to Misfits.
Yeah, come train, guys. Awesome. I love this stuff, man. And I want to meet some more cool people.
Sweet. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it.
Guys. Peace.
Hey.